Thanks for your time.
Oh, that's okay.
I really appreciate it.
That's alright.
뉴질랜드가 올해 방문객과 학생들 등 뉴질랜드 문을 점점 열기 시작하면서 계속 바뀌는 이민법이나 비자 발급 조건 등 이민 변호사인 내 친구 다이애나에게 몇 가지 질문을 해서 물어보기로 했다. 이민 변호사에게 직접 바뀐 정보나 이민성에 대한 것을 물어보는 게 인터넷을 찾는 것보다 훨씬 정확하고 법적으로 정확한 정보를 전달할 수 있어 사람들에게 도움이 될 수 있을 것 같았다.
Thanks for your time, Diana. Okay. How would you describe the different visa types?
The New Zealand visa types, there are quite a few, and it depends if someone is coming here only for a temporary visit or temporary work, or if they want to stay in New Zealand as a resident, which is a permanent stay. For temporary visas, generally this is like a visitor visa, so they're only coming for 3, 6, 9 months. Or it could be a work visa because of a job offer, or because they also have a partner who's a New Zealander. It's also a work visa type, or a student visa for those who are studying, like international students. And then you've got residence, which is the other stream of visas, which could be based on maybe a job offer, or it could be based on your relationship with a New Zealander. Or it could be investments, which is if you have $3 million or $10 million to invest in New Zealand.
That's my case.
Those are pretty much the options for visas in New Zealand.
That's good to know. Next question is, when a person comes into New Zealand holding a working holiday visa and then applying for a work visa, then residence visa, what is the average processing time to get the residency visa?
Residence. So the options for residence for that person really comes down to whether they have a job. So it could be under what has been the skilled migrant category, which is on hold at the moment. So that particular application could have taken at least, or should have only taken at least 9 to 12 months when you lodge your invitation. At the moment, it's closed, but even kind of during COVID, it was taking at least 3 years. Another type of residence, I guess at the moment, had been the 2021 residence visa application. We were told that it should be a priority, so it should only be taking up to 12 months. We've now been told that it could take 18 months.
So that's the one that we will talk about soon, the special grant thing. So we can talk more about it soon. Okay, so what is the skilled migrant visa that is on hold at the moment?
So the skilled migrant category had been the main category that most people got their residence. As you say, they've come to New Zealand to study, have obtained a qualification, have got a job offer, and then they've moved on to their residence application. The skilled migrant category is based on points, and over time the points have increased, so it had gone from 100 to 140 to 160, and this is based on your age, qualification, work experience, your job offer. If you have a partner, also got additional points from there. So in total you have to claim at least 160 points. Your job had to meet certain criteria. Qualifications as well, if you're basing on that, and skilled experience as well. At the moment, so I know when COVID hit and lockdown happened, so back in 2020, there were about 8,000, 9,000 paper applications at that time waiting in the queue to be processed. And then it eventually stopped processing, and then it eventually stopped taking in any more new applications. However, people have continued to lodge their expression of interest during lockdown, and then we get this special category, which we'll talk about.
Okay. Oh, it's all clear now. Because I was like, So many announcements.
Yeah.
I have a residence visa, so I didn't really pay attention to that, but I was so confused. How much are the fees in New Zealand when applying for work visa and a residence visa?
Okay, so the Immigration New Zealand application fees, they do vary depending on the work visa type and the resident visa type, but you probably could expect around about $400-500 work visa. For residents, I know the one off the 2021 was $2,160.
Yep.
So that's a range that you can expect.
So between
and if you are applying from overseas, you've also got the add-on passport and career handling fees.
What are the common questions applying for visas living in New Zealand?
Okay, for those who are here in New Zealand, often we get inquiries from people, like we get inquiries every day. Most of the questions that most people ask is, can we get residence? Because the goal is to live in New Zealand, right?
That's right.
Other queries that we do get from people onshore also are those who are asking for other family members or other friends who are overseas maybe and they need to get into New Zealand.
What is the most important thing when preparing to live in New Zealand? Just your personal opinion.
Well, having been born in New Zealand, in Wellington, and now living in Auckland, we are a very small country, and we are far away from the rest of the world. But one thing that I really do enjoy about New Zealand is the different cultures that we do see. People coming from different countries and different backgrounds, and that's been really awesome. And I think that gives New Zealand a bit of a difference to the rest of the world, is that we do have people from everywhere. And the whole thing of getting to know one another and getting to know different cultures and experiencing different cultures has been really good. So I think for a person who's coming to New Zealand is to prepare yourself for diversity.
I know there are point systems for applying for a residence visa. How does that work?
So the point system is what is the skilled migrant category. It's on hold at the moment, and it's been on hold for the last 2 years, unfortunately. So it is based on points, so you have to try and claim at least 160 points, and this is all based on age, work experience, job offer, qualifications. And so you go through the process. You first have to put in an expression of interest, which is an online form, pay the fee, and then you wait to be drawn from the pool to get invited to apply for residence. And then you've got 4 months to put in your whole application, which is paper, so all your documents, birth certificates, police certificates, medicals, all of that. And then it gets sent into immigration. Before lockdown, it should have only been taking 9 to 12 months, but it's stretched out 3 years, 4 years now. And so a lot of people who would have been eligible, obviously their circumstances would have changed over that time, and they no longer meet the requirements. So a lot of the people who did apply for skilled migrant would have been eligible for the special category, the 2021 resident visa.
If they were in New Zealand though?
If they were in New Zealand on the 29th of September 2021, So that was an attempt by the government to clear the backlog that was there. So not too sure how many of those skilled migrant applications remain to be processed, but there is still a good handful of those, especially ones who are based overseas. Then even for those who are trying to get back now that the borders are kind of reopening, the changes to the work visa applications are now going to become accredited employer work visas, which take effect in July. So you know how we had essential skills work visas, accredited work visas. There were 6 different types of work visas. That's going to be replaced now by one work visa type, which is the accredited employer work visa, and that takes place in July. So there's 3 steps. So the employer has to get accreditation first, which takes 10 working days, and they can start that process in the next week. And then the next step is the job check. That takes around about 10 working days. So the employer has to show that they have made attempts to recruit New Zealanders. And then the third step is the migrant check, and that's where they can apply the work visa. They can put in the work visa application, and that should only take 20 working days.
Okay.
So what, in total, that's 40 working days?
Yep.
So that's what they say, immigration. The reality, we don't know, because it's...
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. Is there a specific wage limit to get a residency visa, or is it different for different titles?
Yeah, so for residents, again, there are different types. So if you were applying under what was the skilled migrant, they look at, immigration looks at the median wage. So currently that is $27 an hour, and it has to be full-time work, which is at least 30 hours a week.
Yep.
The median wage is going up in July to $27.76.
Yep.
So that's what they will base your income, your job offer on.
Yes.
If you were applying under the residence from work, it depends on your the income there. I think was around about $76,000 a year. That's your salary. But then under the long-term skill shortage, I think there's around about $45,000 gross a year. Yeah. So it really depends on the resident.
But $76,000, it's hard to earn, so it'll be really hard for people.
It's really hard, yeah.
Right. To apply for a residence visa, what score do you need to get for IELTS?
For IELTS. So the IELTS, the English test, is for skilled migrant. Principal applicants would have needed to get at least 6.5 overall score.
Yes.
Their partners, who were included, I think 5.5 IELTS.
Yes.
And then for this special 2021 resident visa, there's no English language requirement at all.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
There's no age limit. So there are other English tests that Immigration New Zealand would accept, so long as you get the, at least the minimum score that they require. Yeah.
Recently Jacinda Ardern announced allowing students and skilled shortage workers to enter New Zealand earlier than she announced originally. Does that change a lot of things, or what is that all about?
So there's been so many announcements. It's very hard to kind of understand and get your head around all the different announcements.
Yeah.
But yes, they had allowed the borders to fully reopen earlier than what they said. So it was meant to be October 2022, but now they brought it forward to the end of July 2022.
For long-term skill shortage?
Pretty much for everybody. So that's all visa types, because at the moment, most of the visa type applications are suspended until the borders are fully reopened.
Yeah.
But yes, they did allow for exception for students, and they have allowed exceptions for skilled workers to come into New Zealand while the borders were closed.
Yep.
And so that has continued.
Yep.
But the borders fully reopen end of July, which makes a huge difference for a lot of people.
Yep.
It's also when the accredited employer work visa category will take effect as well in July. So that will affect a lot of people applying for work visas.
Yep. For the skill shortage visa, what are the most common job titles they apply for?
So currently, there is a list that immigration has that they consider to be, it's short in New Zealand. The skills are short in New Zealand. They're highly skilled. You can probably see a lot of occupations in the construction industry. Yep. We've got a few engineers that we've worked with who are on that list. There are some health workers on there as well, and I think very little hospitality workers, very little occupations are on that list.
Job title: cook or the chef? What was it before?
So the cook. So cook was on the long-term skill shortage list, and that was really popular for a lot of our cooks who don't speak English very well.
That's right, yeah.
And that had always been an option that we would use. So they had to get, at that time, they had to get paid at least $45,000 a year.
Yeah.
They had to have a New Zealand cookery qualification as well, which they could have done on site. And then hold that work visa for at least 2 years, apply for residence, and there's no English language requirement for those cooks under that category. It is still, I think it's still on the list, but the change is that with chefs, so immigration makes a difference between cook and chef. So with a chef, they have to have that qualification under the new accredited employer work visa. But that list does get changed every week almost. It feels like. And that skill shortage list is now going to be replaced by the green list, and the green list has around about 85, 86 different occupations, and they vary, like construction, trade workers, IT workers, teachers are on that list. So what is currently the long-term skill shortage list, the skill shortage list, all of those shortage lists are going to be replaced by this green list.
One green list.
One green list.
Okay.
And that is going to affect a lot of people with their residence options moving forward.
What are the most common objections you encounter when applying for work visas and residence visas?
So work visas, I think a lot of issues that we've come across, or questions that immigration have raised with work visas, if it's based on a job, has been labour market check. So that labour market check, so that's where the employer needed to show that they've tried to recruit other New Zealanders. However, that issue we haven't seen much of that at the moment because of, again, the government's announcement to make some work visa types a lot easier. So employers didn't have to go through that process recently with people who are remaining in that same job. Other issues that pop up with work visas, maybe it could be health or character issues by the client. For residents, very similar issues to do with the job. Maybe there's some questions about the employer. Because of COVID as well, whether the employer has remained compliant with the immigration and employment laws, because obviously people had been working reduced hours as well. So when immigration looks at their IRD summary of earnings, need to make sure that, you know, if they were eligible for the wage subsidies and all of that, that all needs to be accounted for. So that's one of the issues that we've been seeing with people's applications.
There was a one-off residence category introduced in September, and we just talked about it a few times. What is that all about?
So the special one-off category of the 2021 resident visa is pretty much an opportunity that the government gave to a lot of people. I think there were, from memory, around about at least 100,000 affected a lot of people, 100,000 people. Where they can apply for this residence visa, where either they have been living in New Zealand for the last 3 years, or they were at the time working in a job that was $27 an hour full time, or that their job is on the scarce list, one of our lists again, scarce list. So these are kind of trade workers or some healthcare workers as well. So that was one of the, so you had to meet one of those three criteria, as well as be in New Zealand on the 29th of September 2021, holding an eligible work visa. So eligible work visas included essential skills, post-study work visas, didn't include partner work visa, and doesn't include specific purpose work visas either. So this was the attempt of the government to give this opportunity to people who were eligible to apply, and it's still currently open. And it will close in July.
Okay, when everyone's coming in to.
Pretty much. Cool. So that was a timing thing, so that people can be in the country to apply. Because you've got to be in New Zealand to apply.
the New Zealand border is just starting to reopen up to other countries. But is there any changes to requirements when arriving in New Zealand compared to before COVID?
So one of the key things that people do need to be aware of when travelling to New Zealand is now they've got to have the New Zealand Traveller Declaration or Travel Pass is what they call it. Pretty much confirms your vaccination status and also confirms that you've got a negative COVID test before arriving in New Zealand. And so that's pretty much the key things that people need to be aware of.
How long, last question, last two questions. How long have you been an immigration lawyer?
I've been practicing for the last 13 years.
30?
13. 1-3.
Oh, too long.
1-3. Yeah, I think a bit too long.
Okay. What do you enjoy the most doing your job? Okay, you're thinking too long now.
Oh, okay.
Anything?
I really enjoy solving problems.
Yeah.
And so when a person comes to us with an issue, particularly an issue, I love looking at what the options are and finding a way forward for them. And sometimes we do have to think outside the box.
Yes.
And some way forward is really simple. So I really enjoy that. And then also getting people over the finish line.
That's good. Yeah, it took 3 minutes to answer that. So
Okay.
You hesitated a lot.
You can
I'm kidding.
and then you can extend it.
To do? Let's go for lunch.
Yes, let's go.
别人给他建议，第一个是要有单方面的。
Nami channel kudok haseyo.